Good afternoon and welcome. My name is John. I'm Orphan Car Garage. I'm located in Abington, Massachusetts, which is about 30 minutes south of Boston. I pride myself here being a purveyor of affordable classic cars, and this Rambler here in front of me is a perfect example of that. In 1960, Rambler's advertising slogan was a new standard in basic excellence, which is kind of ironic because today's basic cars advertise how much you get with the car in addition to what you'd expect. But Rambler actually reversed course with that back then and took a different take on that and actually advertised the fact that the cars were actually rather simple. With that became less repairs, easier serviceability and durability, etc., etc. George Romney was the president of American Motors Corporation after the merger with Hudson and Nash in the mid-1950s. And Nash had the little Rambler in their pocket since the early 1950s, and it was a real hit. And George saw the advantage of a small to intermediate sized car in U.S. families, and he decided after the merger to really take off with the Rambler brand and less so with the full-size cars. So after 1957, we had no more Hudson and no more Nash full-size cars, and everything was basically labeled a Rambler of one sort or another. This car being from 1960 was the next size up from the smaller American. I'm going to call this an intermediate size vehicle, and still small by the day's standards, by comparison of the big three. Big three really had nothing at that time, or at least until 1960, when the compact wars really took off. But even with the compact wars of 1960, Chevrolet introducing the Corvair, Chrysler introducing the Plymouth Valiant, and Ford introducing the Falcon. Thank you, I almost lost it. And of course we had Studebaker in 1959 with the Lark. So they had been catching on to Romney's ideas. Plus with the growing competition from Europe, the Volkswagen Beetle and such. But even with those all into consideration, for 1960, Rambler sold over $1 million worth of new vehicles, making it number 3 in sales, which is pretty amazing for a small company like AMC. Most of it due to George Romney's idea to take the Rambler line and run with it. So back to this particular car. It's been here before. It's no stranger to us here at Orphan Car Garage. I purchased this car for my own personal collection back in 2016. I had it shipped here from Washington State, kept it in my personal collection, had a lot of fun with it. Everywhere I went with this car, it drew a crowd and smiles. I really enjoyed this car. It was very durable, very turnkey, never gave me an issue. But almost from day one, a friend of mine locally wanted to buy it from me. One day he came in my shop and he hit me on the right day and I sold it to him. He then drove the car pretty regularly in nice weather, and he was a mechanic by trade, so he brought the car up to another level. Probably a little more than he had to. Completely rebuilt the mechanics. The original mechanics in this car were all completely rebuilt. From the cylinder head to the engine block to the transmission, clutch, brakes, cooling system. Everything in the car has been renewed under his ownership. About a year ago, he came to me and wanted to have something else to play with, so he asked me to sell this car for him, and I did. It went to Illinois. And the new owner in Illinois, I made promise that when he was done with it, he would call me. I've always loved this car, and I would love to have the opportunity to bring it back here to Orphan Car Garage. He fulfilled his promise, and over the winter, he called me, asked me if I wanted to buy the car back. He was thinning out his collection as he aged. Of course, I jumped on the opportunity. The car recently made its way back here to Massachusetts, and here it is again being offered for sale by me. So, third time's a charm. Maybe it'll come back a fourth time. Who knows? I certainly won't have any hesitation to do that. The reason why I purchased this car is because this car is what I love. It's basically an original Survivor, unrestored car. This is all its original paint. Every panel on this car is wearing its original yellow paint. When I got the car in 2016 or 17, I think it was late 2016, I had all the paint corrected. And by that, I mean a 3 or 4 stage buffing process. It's not a fluff and buff. It's not a wash and wax. It's a whole day job to have done. Basically, you're removing the top layer of oxidized paint and revealing a nice clean sheen underneath that. And it really came out nicely, and it's held up very, very well. We just recently did a slight refresh on it to give it a quick spiff, and it came out very nice because that original correction is held up beautifully. That's all original paint. Interior of this car is mostly original too, and we will get to that momentarily. I love the trim around the windows. It's like your grandmother's screen door. Rambler was known for this. Looks like something you'd see around a screen door window at your grandmother's house. The original accessory outside mirror, because on Ramblers, or most cars of that day, that mirror would have been an option. We'll assume that that was installed at the dealership as an accessory. Now, because this paint is all original, it's not 100% perfect as you'd expect. You can see some wear here at the little faux tail fin here. But by 1960, tail fins were really starting to fall out of favor. If you look at a 59 Rambler, you'll see much more pronounced tail fins. By 1960, they went down to this, and by 61 or 2, they were gone completely. But back to the original point, you can see some wear there where the paint's worn away. There's also a crease here in the quarter panel I want to point out. I bought this car from the second family owner. And as far as he knew, that dent has been there for decades. That may have happened in the 1970s. I didn't want to touch it. Couple little chips. Not bad at all. Getting in and out of the back door, something rubbed. But that shows the originality of this car. Not a whole lot else. Right here on the top of the left front fender, there's some odd spots in the paint that go right down to the factory primer. The battery for this car is right here. The only thing we can assume is that at one point the battery had an issue and battery asked to get on the top of this fender and did this. The hood is untouched. So obviously the hood was open when it happened. It's gotta be battery acid damage. Again, I didn't want to touch it, and it's really not that bad, as you can see. You have to really kind of get up to it. To me, things like that add to the character and tell the story of the car. Really, really. I didn't want to put any paint work into this car at all. And then there's a crease here at the bottom of the door. And I actually, to be honest with you, don't recall that being there when I owned this car the first time, but it may have been. Some minor chipping along that wheel well. You'll notice there's absolutely no rust on the car. There is no rust on this car. The undercarriage is just as clean as the top surfaces. The tires are not that old. Full-size wheel covers. You'll notice quad headlights. I believe those were an option. This car would have come with single headlights. I think they were about a $28 option, and maybe somebody can correct me on that, because sometimes you'll see these cars from 1960, these intermediate Ramblers with single headlights. I read that these were a $28 option, but I've only seen a few ever with single headlights. Thankfully, I think that quad headlight setup really dresses it up nicely. Beautiful chrome, just what you'd expect from the Pacific Northwest. Hardly a flaw. Some bumper guards there. This is really cool. Each one of these letters stands independently on top of the grille. Details like that, even in a basic car like a Rambler. Headlight bezels are like new and original. We'll go inside. Nice, clean, original door panels. Some minor scuffing there from obviously getting in and out, kicking the door open with your foot. These armrests would have been a dealer installed accessory. That's why the green's a little different. A Rambler accessory for sure, but not installed at the factory. Nice door jams, the original sill plates, the original rubber floor covering that's in really decent shape. There's just a couple of rips, one here and then one over there. But that's original to the car. They didn't use carpeting in these cars. I believe the Deluxe came with a black mat, and the Super and the Custom came with a color-keyed mat, obviously green. Speaking of green, look at the green interior on this car. It's just amazing. I love the design of this interior. This was about a $2,000 car when it was brand new, but yet they put details like this into the car. So, getting back to the originality of the interior, the only thing in here that's not original is the front seat bottom, and you can see just a little bit of difference. When I purchased the car in 2016, there was a tear in this seat right about here. I sourced this NOS original fabric out of SMS Auto Fabrics. I believe they're in Oregon. And I had the bottom only reupholstered with the correct NOS seat material. It matches, but you can see a little bit of a color difference, more so in this light. A little bit of threadbare here on the original seat back, but again, that's all original. Seat back, door panels, dashboard, headliner with just some minor discoloration. The back seat is impeccable. There's your door panel in the back. Again, clean door jambs, rocker panels. There won't be a speck of rust on this car. The floor covering back here is like new, no tears in it whatsoever. That's an all original back seat, never been touched. Obviously not a whole lot of kids have been in this car. Door panel over there is just as nice as this one. Crank windows, of course. Vent windows, I miss vent windows. As we get in the car, you'll see that the odometer shows 82,485 miles. That is original miles. That odometer has not spun over. Radio delete and clock delete. How cool is that? This is to remind you every day you didn't pay the $16 for the AM radio. But the good thing is, Rambler did this so the dealer could easily add a radio if the customer wanted it. But nobody ever added the radio to this car, which I love. I'm so glad they didn't. And then that would have been an electric clock. So you better wear your watch when you drive this car, because the original owner didn't spring the $8 or $6 or $4 for the original clock. A little bit of wear down there on the cardboard kick panel. Things you'd expect from an original car. The famous Weather Eye ventilation system with a heater only. There is no air conditioning in this car. Why would there be? They didn't buy a radio. But you did get an ashtray. You got an ashtray and a lighter, so that was standard. The car does have windshield washers, and I'll show you that under the hood. When I open the hood, I'm going to stop the car now. 3-speed manual transmission on the column. Starts right up like that. Idles so nice, you don't even hear it running. I'm going to open the hood. The car's running, you wouldn't know it. Look at that. Some of these had a flathead straight six. I've only seen a couple of them. Rambler was using both engines in 1960. This has the overhead valve, 196 cubic inch, 6-cylinder engine. Excuse me. Which you see most commonly in these cars. There's your windshield washer bag that I mentioned. Windshield washer accessory. The original Weather Eye ventilation decal under the hood. A lot of originality under here, but you can see the engine block has all been detailed, cleaned, and painted, because that's all been rebuilt. New radiator, new hoses, new clutch, new brakes, new water pump. I can go on and on and on. The firewall and inner fender walls of this car, all original paint as well. There's some minor patina. Again, no rust. Accessory oil filter. This was actually a dealer installed accessory. You did not get an oil filter with your Rambler unless you paid extra for it. Original air cleaner decal. So a lot of originality on this car. Just fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love having it here. I'm not in a rush to sell it, although I don't expect it to stay long, especially at the price we're asking. This turnkey 1960 Rambler Super, said to be a new standard in basic excellence. Orphan Car Garage pricing on this beauty, $13,900. $13,900 for this very drivable, very fun Rambler from 1960. Give us a call, 508-954-8090. Check this car out on my website. There's a full gallery of photos. Ask me for anything additional that you don't see, orphancargarage.com. Like us here on YouTube, of course, subscribe. We always have cool, fun, affordable stuff like this to show off. And find us on Facebook and like us there, because everything gets posted there as well. $13,900 for a new standard in basic excellence. Thank you.